Welcome to the Roots of Peace in the Text and Traditions of the Abrahamic Religions. I'm Doug Hostetter, Secretary of Luke 10 and Chair of the Program Committee. I'm also a minister in the Mennonite Church and a member of the United Nations advocacy team of Pax Christi International. This webinar, The Roots of Peace in the Text and Traditions of the Abrahamic Religions, is the 10th in a series of webinars produced by Luke 10 in cooperation with our academic and clerical colleagues from the Islamic Republic of Iran. This webinar will run for an hour and a half. The chat button has been disabled for the audience, but questions can be addressed to the panelists at any time during the webinar through the chat, through the questions button. After the presentations, Dr. Randall Paul from the board of Luke 10 will be selecting questions that have been submitted and presenting them to the panelists. Students who want academic credit for participation in this webinar can send a request to Luke 10 at the posted email address, and Luke 10 will send them a certificate of participation so that they can get course credit for their participation. Luke 10 was established in 2020 by 18 religious leaders representing Christian denominations from the United States, Canada, and Great Britain, who came together to respond to the request from our Iranian academic and religious colleagues for interfaith dialogue and humanitarian aid during the COVID crisis. Many of us on the Luke 10 board have worked with our Iranian academic and religious colleagues for more than 20 years. While continuing our humanitarian assistance to Iran, in recent years, Luke 10 has focused on interfaith dialogue and building understanding and friendship between our peoples and our countries. As Christians, we are called to love God and our neighbors. As it is written in the 10th chapter of the Gospel of St. Luke, we are committed to following the teachings of Jesus, to engage in acts of kindness and friendships to our neighbors, whomever they may be, wherever they may live. This webinar will be moderated by Dr. Heidi Hetzel, a member of the Luke 10 board. After 4 years of directing the Ecumenical Institute of the World Council of Churches, Heidi served as the president of Hartford Seminary for 18 years until her retirement several years ago. Heidi?
Thank you very much. I want to add my warm welcome to one and all to this webinar, which promises to be 90 minutes of compelling and engaging reflection on a very important topic. Each of our panelists is a highly regarded expert in Muslim-Christian relations and dialogue with considerable experience doing dialogue near and far, along with writing books and articles which inform and are informed by that experience. I look forward to each presentation and the conversation between them, and I'm sure you do too. The format of this webinar will be as follows. We will begin with our 4 speakers who will speak one after the other. I will very briefly introduce each speaker when it is his or her turn to speak. Each speaker has been asked to limit their speaking for 10 minutes to 10 minutes, and I am sure they will do their very best to stay within this time limit. 10 minutes is very short when you have so much and so many rich and important things to say. After the presentations, there will be a 15-minute discussion among the panelists themselves. Then there will, 15-minute discussion among the panelists themselves. And then there will be 14 minutes for questions from the audience. So write your questions down and we'll get as many as we can. And Dr. Randall Paul, who is president of the Foundation for Religious Diplomacy, will moderate this portion of the program. Finally, our program coordinator, Doug Hostetter, will close the webinar. I know that for all, this will be a rich and engaging 90-minute conversation. And we're very, very glad that each of you has opted to join us into this conversation. And let us begin. So the first program, the first person I will introduce is, wait a minute, I got my papers here. Dr. David Grafton.
That's me. Yeah.
I think I have David Grafton's here. Wait a minute. David Grafton, yes, you please welcome, you will welcome and introduce Hartford Seminary, Hartford International University, please.
Thank you, Heidi. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are around the world. I am the Reverend Dr. David D. Grafton, Professor of Islamic Studies and Christian Muslim Relations, and the Director of the McDonald Center here at HIU. And I am delighted to be here and to be co-sponsoring this discussion with my colleagues who will be introduced shortly. But first, a few words about HIU and the McDonald Center for your information. Hartford International University for Religion and Peace is a pioneering interreligious international university, originally founded as Hartford Theological Seminary in 1834. At HIU, we engage in robust religious and theological studies and meaningful dialogue to deepen our respective beliefs and respect our differences between religious traditions. We do this through several master's programs, a Master of Interreligious Studies, International Peace Building, and Chaplaincy, and with 2 advanced level programs, a PhD and a Doctor of Ministry. We also advance our mission through the work of several centers at the university: the Howard Thurman Center for Justice and Transformational Ministry, the Center for Transformative Spirituality, the Hartford Institute for Religion Research, and of course, the McDonald Center for the Study of Islam and Christian Muslim Relations. Now, the McDonald Center is an academic unit here at HIU dedicated to scholarly research, teaching, publication, and communication with the public within the broad field of Islamic studies. Named after Duncan Black MacDonald, who taught Hebrew, Arabic, and Islamic studies at Hartford Seminary from 1892 to 1923, the McDonald Center for the Study of Islam and Christian Muslim Relations is the country's oldest, the U.S.'s oldest study center for such a perspective on Islam, opened in 1973. The center engages in the study of Islam as a religion rather than through the traditional university foci of historical or area studies. Building upon this important legacy, the McDonald Center encourages scholars, students, the media, and the general public to develop an accurate awareness and appreciation of Islam, Muslim communities, and their historic relationships with Jews and Christians. It is committed to the premise that through intensive study and academically guided dialogue, mutual respect and cooperation between Muslims, Jews, and Christians can and must develop positively. The center also promotes intra-Muslim dialogue between Sunnis and Shia. Finally, the center sponsors a biennial lecture, the Bielefeld Lecture, named after the center's first director, Willem Bielefeld, and that will take place tomorrow evening in the U.S., a biennial symposium on sacred languages, interfaith art exhibitions, public webinars, and provides resources to foster awareness of and dialogue between religious communities. Under the aegis of the university, the center also edits the scholarly journal, The Muslim World, which was founded in 1911 and reaches 65 countries from around the world. And also, we host the first chair of Shi'i studies in the United States. Welcome, and I'm so excited to be here, and this will prove to be an excellent webinar and conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Next, I invite Dr. Sedahati to introduce the Tulu International Institute. Please.
Thank you so much.
Is it Sedahati?
It is Sedaqati.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. On behalf of Tulu International Institute, it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you, our distinguished professors, researchers, and participants, to this international webinar titled An Interreligious Dialogue, Roots of Peace in the Texts and Traditions of the Abrahamic Faiths. I would also like to warmly acknowledge our partners and co-organizers, Hartford International University and Luke 10 Foundation, whose collaboration and shared vision have made this dialogue possible. It is an honor for Tulu to stand beside such respected institutions in a conversation dedicated to peace, understanding, and shared spiritual values among the Abrahamic traditions. Let me take a brief moment to introduce Tulu International Institute. Tulu is a nonprofit academic initiative devoted to fostering communication and collaboration in the vast field of Islamic studies. We believe that knowledge should not remain confined within institutions or languages. Across the Islamic world, especially in Qom, Najaf, and Mashhad, there exist hundreds and thousands of valuable books, lectures, courses, and research projects that many university professors and students around the globe simply never hear about. Often these treasures are not public, not translated, or not easily accessible. Tulu's mission is to act as an intermediary to transfer this knowledge, to introduce it, and to facilitate access for scholars and students everywhere. In short, we help make the hidden world of Islamic scholarship visible. What we do first, we introduce advanced seminary courses, especially in Qom, Najaf, and Mashhad. We do not organize or hold these classes ourselves. We curate and present them to the academic community, helping scholars discover leading advanced level courses in jurisprudence, theology, ethics, and even emerging fields such as the jurisprudence of artificial intelligence or contemporary moral philosophy. Second, we run the Islamic Studies Digest, a concise review platform that highlights recent and important publications in areas such as Quranic exegesis, hadith, philosophy, and Islamic economics, so that academics can stay current with new research. Third, we connect scholars and institutions through webinars, conferences, and workshops, helping to build bridges between seminaries and universities around the world. Finally, Tulu also assists researchers who would like to join conferences or any access to the libraries here or to the universities and facilitate for them. So on behalf of Tulu International Institute, I once again extend our warmest welcome to all participants, speakers, and our esteemed co-organizers at Hartford International University and Luke 10 Foundation. May this gathering be a step toward deeper understanding, mutual respect, and the peace that all sacred texts call us to pursue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're glad you're here. Our first speaker, we will have 4 presentations, and our first presenter is Dr. Mohammed Hossein Mozaffari, and he will be speaking on the roots of peace in Islam. Dr. Mozaffari is the founding director of the Center for Peace and Dialogue at the University of Religions and Denominations in Iran. His academic background connects international law with Islamic studies and special expertise on Muslim states' politics on human rights. Dr. Mozaffari's research focuses on the interdisciplinary subjects of international law, human rights, and Islamic studies. His research is concerned with the promotion of human rights ideas in Muslim societies through the indigenization of various topics, ranging from philosophical concepts such as human dignity to civil and political rights, peace studies, and sustainable development. Dr. Mozaffari's career also focuses on friendship among nations, intercultural studies, and interreligious dialogue for peace and reconciliation. Welcome, Dr. Mozaffari, and we're eager to hear your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First, I would like to express my thanks to my colleagues in the Tulu International Institute and also to the organizers from Luke 10 to use my time for a very difficult and complicated subject. The topic of my short talk is roots of peace in Islamic sources, organic harmony versus religious tolerance. Therefore, to divide this 10 minutes in the concept that I proposed in the topic, I will try to divide in 4 sections. First, definitions of the peace and tolerance, and also limitation of the scope of my talks on Islamic sources. The third, explaining the notion of organic harmony and as an alternative to religious tolerance. This is the ideas that I will try to make it possible and explain it in this short talk. Historically, since the Europe modernity, religion has been connected and linked to intolerance and violence, and an artificial dichotomy of religious secular dominates social sciences. In a reactionary manner, theologians propose religious tolerance to change the attitude of the people towards others, fostering social harmony, coexistence, and also global peace. Therefore, the core thesis is rereading Islamic primary sources to offer an alternative approach that is rebattling the doctrine, the Islamic doctrine that developed by Islamic jurists during several centuries back. In this introduction, I want first to make clear that the definition of peace in my talk is not a very complicated as defined by the international law. It's the positive relation, the positive peace, just relation, mutual respect, and peaceful interaction among groups and nations. And it means that the identity, I mean, the social, ethnic and religious identity is central in defining peace and making clear what to make as a framework, for a general framework for the roots of in the Islamic tradition and Islamic sources. Islamic sources propose that identity is an important aspect that emerges during the socialization and interaction between different identities, religious identities, and intergroup relations, ethnic, religious, cultural, and civilizational identities that stems from our mindset toward the others. It means that just and peaceful relation among diverse identities arise from the positive perception of the other. This is the main aspect in the framework for making a theory of modern international law or a modern Islamic law of nations. Traditionally, the theology make an identity between we as believers against others unbelievers, defined by faith and infidelities, truth or falsehood, fueling historical conflicts through exclusive salvation claims. Modern peace building or peacemakers try to offer religious tolerance as a civic virtue in the post-7th century European wars between Catholic and Protestant. Therefore, tolerance is a method or a mechanism to make peaceful relations between different religious identities. While tolerance means enduring the unpleasant situation for pragmatic reason, not just a positive approach or positive attitude toward others. For example, when I say I tolerate a headache, or if I say to my child, I can't tolerate your behavior, the negative aspects is rooted in the term of the tolerance. Therefore, as an alternative in the Islamic viewpoint, as I explained in this short talk, propose the concept of harmony or organic harmony. The organic harmony is based on three pillars. One is recognition of the other. Recognition of the other as a member of my family or our family, as a member of us. In Surah An-Nisa, verse 1, we read, O mankind, fear your Lord, who created you from one soul. Therefore, the kinship bonds between the members of the human family is one pillar or one condition for natural cooperation between different identities as compared to religious tolerance, which means merely enduring an unpleasant situation. The second aspect is diversity as a sign, as a divine sign, or as a sign of the Almighty. In Surah Al-Hujurat, we read, we made you people and tribes that you may know one another. Diversity, nations, tribes, is God's wisdom, not for superiority of one nation over others. These two aspects, recognition of the kinship relationship between members of the human families, and appreciating the diversity between nations and cultures and civilizations as a sign of the wisdom of the Almighty is the two important aspects or the two important pillars for establishing peace among nations. In Surah Al-Rum, we read, among his signs, diversity of your language and colors. And in Surah An-Nahl, we read, if God will, he would make you one community. Therefore, diversity and appreciation of this plurality as a sign of the wisdom of the Almighty is very important to respect the rights of the other, to appreciate the diversity, and to be prepared to accept the others. This is the reason that not only enduring the other as a pragmatic approach or for political expediency, but to consider the other as a part of myself, as a part of a whole, is necessary for making a general framework for the peace according to Islamic tradition or the primary sources of the Islamic tradition. In contrast to the religious tolerance which was developed after the 17th century in Europe, and also in contrast to the traditional Islamic views that developed by the Islamic jurists like Mawardi and Ghazali and other Islamic jurists and theologians. For that reason, Ayatollah Sistani, when the Pope Francis paid a visit to Najaf, it was indicated and it was declared in every part of Najaf, in the portraits, and also in the whole city of Najaf. This quoting of Ayatollah Sistani, I'm quoting, "You are part of us, and we are part of you," to the Christians. But this is not only a diplomatic expression, but it's a reality rooted in the Islamic kinship and in the primary sources of the Islamic law or Islamic Sharia. Therefore, embracing the other as essential part of the whole of human family, and recognition and also appreciation of the diversity of nations, tribes, colors, cultures, civilizations is an essential part of making peace and developing a general framework for the peacemaking according to the modern Islamic law of nations.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mozaffari. Can you wrap it up, because we have other panelists that need to follow and we're in a tight time frame, please.
Yeah, thank you. Sure. To shift from the epistemological aspects to the practical, the important feature of Islamic framework for peace is, just to conclude, is in recognizing the other as an identity, not making unification or integration or assimilation of the others, recognizing the differences, appreciating the differences, and accepting the others as they are and as they live. This is the essential part. And this provides and pave the way for the peace and respecting the right of the others. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your compelling thought. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, and we'll remember that we will have time for interaction between the panelists and also questions from the audience. So write down your questions if you have them. Our next speaker is Dr. Lucinda Mosher. Lucinda is professor of interreligious dialogue at Hartford International University for Peace, Religion and Peace, and is a senior scholar for continuing professional education. Lucinda is also the director of the master's degree program in interreligious studies and senior editor of the Journal of Interreligious Studies. Lucinda, we're very happy to have you here, and please go right ahead.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in the sight of God, my strength and my Redeemer. It is my pleasure and privilege to offer my Christian perspective on roots of peace. Peace is mentioned hundreds of times in English translations of Christianity's scripture. It translates the Hebrew shalom and the Greek eirene. Shalom connotes well-being or unity. Similarly, eirene means harmony among people, the normal situation in God's presence. Peace is thus the opposite of disorder, but not the mere absence of violence. Throughout Christian sacred writings, peace is both a greeting and the name of a desirable, readily available state of affairs, the source of which is God. In the theological discourse of early Christianity, peace stands alongside love, brotherhood, and reconciliation as communal norms. Gregory of Nyssa, a major 4th century theologian, described peace as an essential good, a phenomenon flowing naturally into every other good in which the faithful participate. 5th century philosopher Pseudo-Dionysius wrote at length on peace as a name of God that is embodied in the person and work of Jesus. As peace, he asserted, God is the source of conciliation, the one and all perfect source and cause of the peace of all. The Gospel of John records a lengthy address by Jesus, during which, anticipating his arrest, he says to his disciples, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you." Jesus' gift is given as a remedy for fear, a theme taken up by his apostles in their post-resurrection letters of encouragement to various Christian congregations. For example, to the church in Philippi, Paul says, "Do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Earlier in his ministry, according to the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus had taught, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." But how is peace to be made? Among strategies advocated by Christians in the religion's formative centuries and since are nonviolence, pacifism, love of one as the enemy, and transformation of weapons into tools for other purposes. Often, they have turned to Psalm 34, which directs us to depart from evil and do good, seek peace and pursue it. This instruction is echoed by the Apostle Peter in his first epistle, by Paul in a letter to Timothy, and by the author of the New Testament treatise to the Hebrews. How is seeking different from pursuing peace? Seeking involves tapping into hope, curiosity, mindfulness. Pursuit is more active, more intentional, more deliberate, more persistent, more arduous. The Bible's implication that peace is both to be sought and to be pursued suggests that peace is both to be found and to be waged. Waging peace requires preparation, proper equipment, and fortitude. In Paul's epistle to the Ephesians, we read, "Stand therefore and fasten the belt of truth around your waist and put on the breastplate of righteousness. As shoes for your feet, put on whatever will make you ready to proclaim the gospel of peace." Asserting that using a sword is incompatible with being Christian, Athenagoras, a 2nd century Christian apologist, advocated non-retaliation and emphasized turning the other cheek. Exercising a similar line of thinking, Origen, a 3rd century theologian, said that Christians are not trained for war, so they should not carry weapons. Perhaps having in mind the beating of swords into plowshares, the Apostle James wrote that a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace for those who make peace. Clement of Alexandria, who died in 215 of the Common Era, described Christians as the peaceable generation. Yet elsewhere, contradictorily, he conjured up Jesus organizing Christians as a military force. Quote, "The loud trumpet, when sounded, collects the soldiers and proclaims war, and shall not Christ, breathing a strain of peace to the ends of the earth, gather together his own soldiers, the soldiers of peace? Well, by his blood and by the word, he has gathered the bloodless host of peace and assigned them to the kingdom of heaven." Such imagery calls to mind that Jesus, whom Christians celebrate as the Prince of Peace, once exclaimed, "I come not to bring peace, but a sword." In a homily on the epistle to the Philippians, 4th century theologian John Chrysostom enjoins us to be at peace with all people, considering with what character God saves them. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Such people always imitate the Son of God. You should imitate him also. Be at peace. The roots for seeking, pursuing, and waging peace, plentiful in Christian scripture and tradition, are cultivated liturgically to this day. A litany, chanted antiphonally by officiant and congregation, may include a petition like, from words and deeds that encourage discord, prejudice, and hatred, from everything that prevents the human family from fulfilling your promise of peace, O Lord, deliver us. More common are collects, patterned supplications intoned by an officiant and affirmed by the congregation's unison Amen. One well-known collect opens, O God, the author of peace and lover of concord, to know you is eternal life, and to serve you is perfect freedom. In a persistent effort to wage peace, a Lutheran congregation in New York City has, during every gathering for worship since September 11th, 2001, offered a collect which includes these words: let the design of your great love shine on the waste of our wraths and sorrows, and give peace to your church, peace among nations, peace in our city, peace in our homes, and peace in our hearts. If the roots of peace are to be sought in lessons derived from scripture, foundational writings of early church theologians, and liturgical practices, Christians might cultivate peace further by recalling that, according to Jesus, the greatest commandment is to love both God and neighbor as ourselves. In effect, it is a command to open our soul to our neighbors, to be with them as God is with us. Our world's stratification and polarization make an open soul difficult to achieve, but in the branch of Christianity I espouse, guidance can be found in the promises associated with baptism, which members reaffirm at intervals throughout the year. Among these promises, we have this question: will you strive for justice and peace among all people and respect the dignity of every human being? The all and the every make this a very tall undertaking. Nevertheless, we always promise that we will, with God's help. For many Christians, the rite of Holy Communion includes a moment when the celebrant declares, "The peace of the Lord be always with you," and the people reply, "And also with you." Then they say to each other, "The peace of the Lord," as they exchange hugs and handshakes. Lest this seem perfunctory, consider that overindulgence in fear has been likened to overdosing on a powerful narcotic. Because peace can mitigate fear, it is a gift of much value, but that value can be accessed only by reciprocal giving. In the ritual passing of God's peace from one worshiper to another is affirmation of God's presence and an expression of a communal wish for unity and harmony, rooted in the sure knowledge that human flourishing is more likely when fear is overcome. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Lucinda. Our next speaker is Dr. Yehezkel Landau. Yehezkel is an interfaith educator, leadership trainer, author, and consultant working to promote Jewish, Christian, Muslim engagement and interreligious peace building. And he's been doing this for close to 50 years. From 2002 to 2016, Dr. Landau was a professor of Jewish tradition and interfaith relations at Hartford Seminary, which is now Hartford International University for Religion and Peace, where he held the chair in Abrahamic Partnerships and directed the Building Abrahamic Partnerships program for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Yehezkel lectures internationally on interfaith relations and the methodologies of holistic peace building, and he has authored numerous journal articles and book chapters. We're very glad to have you here, Yehezkel. Please enlighten us.
Thanks so much, Heidi. Assalamu alaikum, shalom aleichem, the blessing of peace to all assembled here virtually around the world. I want to thank the sponsors of this webinar for organizing it and for including me as one of the panelists and giving me the assignment to speak briefly on the roots of peace in Judaism. In Jewish tradition, peace or shalom is a divine blessing invoked at the conclusion of formal prayers, whether in a synagogue or at home. In both Judaism and Islam, shalom and as-salam are names for God. Both traditions view God as the source of peace, as does Christianity, and since we are called by our faith traditions to emulate the qualities of the divine, we are summoned to be peace builders. And this means demonstrating mercy or compassion. Other divine names reflect this quality. Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim in Arabic, Har-Rachaman in Hebrew, both based on the term for womb, Rechem, Rachem, conveying the feminine, air quotes here, the feminine attribute of maternal love that complements the more paternal or masculine divine attributes of justice and judgment. And of course, the divine is above all of these human qualities. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 3, we find the first reference to holiness in the Hebrew Bible. It reads, Vayevarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i v'yakadesh oto. And God blessed the seventh day and consecrated it, sanctified it. This first act of consecration by God within the creation story does not refer to any spatial coordinate, like a land, a city, or a shrine. Instead, the reference is to Shabbat, the Sabbath day, a unit of time. In my understanding, God's act of cosmic consecration is a preemptive inoculation against the human tendency toward what I call territorialatry, making any place, including a land or a site deemed holy, into an idol to be worshipped instead of God. Since all human beings bear the divine image and likeness, Genesis 1, verse 26, human life is the supreme value within creation according to Judaism's hierarchy of holiness. My Muslim brothers and sisters have expressed to me the same fundamental principle, saying that a single human life is holier than the stones of the Kaaba in Mecca. Both traditions teach that destroying one innocent life is tantamount to annihilating an entire world, while saving one human life is like saving a whole world from destruction. At the conclusion of every week, we Jews wish each other Shabbat Shalom, meaning, may you experience the sacred harmony implanted into the creation by the divine, the holy wholeness, Shleimut, that transcends the fragmentation or brokenness of this world. The great 20th century rabbi Abraham Isaac Cook offered this understanding of the connection between peace, shalom, and wholeness or integration, shleimut. He wrote, it is precisely the multiplicity of opinions that derive from variegated souls and backgrounds which enriches wisdom and brings about its enlargement. In the end, all matters will be properly understood, and it will be recognized that it was impossible for the structure of peace to be built without those trends that appeared to be in conflict. End of quote. We read in the Talmudic tractate Eruvin, page 13b, that the ancient rabbinic schools of Hillel and Shammai were arguing over a point of Jewish law. As the dispute grew more heated, a voice from heaven, a bat kol, intervened and decreed, Gam elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim. Both sides are speaking words of God. The lesson in this story is that divine truth is dialectical, not dogmatic. It's both and, not either or, transcending the human tendency to create false binaries and dichotomies. In my understanding, this understanding of truth as multidimensional applies not only to disputes between Jews who have differing interpretations of Torah texts, but also to competing truth claims among religions. For despite our differing theologies, we share ethical and devotional truths, creating common ground, sacred common ground on which we can build relationships of mutual trust, affection, appreciation, and blessing. The Hebrew prophet Zechariah addressed the Jews who had returned to the Holy Land following the Babylonian exile when the Persian king Cyrus decreed that the exiles could return home to Jerusalem and rebuild the Holy Temple. In chapter 8 of Zechariah, verse 6, the prophet proclaims, Emet umishpat shalom shiftu b'sha'arechem. Truth and justice peace you shall administer in your gates. Now, if we read this verse in reverse, we can understand that we suffer war because there is no justice, and there is no inclusive justice because competing truth claims, self-referencing and self-serving, are being advanced by the opposing sides. We need to discover and share healing truths, including confessional acknowledgement of harm done to others, if we are to create a shared path to inclusive justice and genuine, lasting peace. In Judaism, most commandments, or in Hebrew mitzvot, are prescribed for specific occasions or when particular circumstances arise. But there are two general commandments that pertain to our conversation today. The first, in Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 20, it reads, Tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue. Why is the word tzedek repeated? The classic rabbinic answer is that just ends need to be pursued using just means. Otherwise, those ends can be corrupted. I hear an additional message in the repetition of the word tzedek. In most conflicts, each party has partial or relative justice on its side. So to resolve the dispute, one needs to pursue a double justice that accommodates the two opposing positions in a fair, mutually beneficial compromise. In addition to pursuing justice, the second commandment, applicable to any and all circumstances, is striving for peace. Lucinda already quoted the 34th Psalm, verse 15. Psalms in Hebrew is Tehillim, in Arabic Zubur. And in that verse, we read this series of imperatives. Sur mirav asetov bakesh shalom fehu. Desist from evil and do good, seek peace and pursue it. So we are called by God to be Rodfei Tzedek and Rodfei Shalom, pursuers of justice and peace in all of our relationships. Before concluding, I want to acknowledge that a key element of transforming destructive conflicts into constructive partnerships is forgiveness, both granting it to others when we are harmed and requesting it when someone has a legitimate grievance against us. In the rabbinic text Avot the Rabbi Natan, we find this teaching. Who is mighty or heroic? One who transforms his enemy into a friend. What this means is that waging peace, reconciling with an adversary, often requires more strength and courage than waging war. In this regard, I highly recommend Rabbi Amy Eilberg's excellent book, here it is, From Enemy to Friend, Jewish Wisdom and the Pursuit of Peace, for anyone interested in delving more deeply into this topic. I also recommend the book by the late Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. Here's this one, The Dignity of Difference, How to Avoid the Clash of Civilizations. Rabbi Sachs has an entire chapter on forgiveness, which includes this statement. Forgiveness means that we are not destined endlessly to replay the grievances of yesterday. It is the ability to live with the past without being held captive by the past. It would not be an exaggeration to say that forgiveness is the most compelling testimony to human freedom. In the face of tragedy, forgiveness is the counter narrative of hope. It is not a moral luxury, an option for saints. At times, it is the only path through the thickets of hate to the open spaces of coexistence. Our conflicted world needs many more open spaces of coexistence. And I hope and pray that this webinar will encourage us to be more effective peace builders. Inshallah, Keni Hiratzon, Bezrat Hashem.
Thank you very much, Yehezkel. And this is exactly what we're doing, as you describe, is sharing healing truths. I think they are healing as we talk together about these truths. Our next speaker is Dr. Muhammad Ali Shomali. Dr. Shomali graduated from the Islamic seminaries of Qom and holds a bachelor's and master's degree in Western philosophy from the University of Tehran, as well as a PhD in philosophy from the University of Manchester. As founder and founding director of the Risalat International Institute, Dr. Shomali develops Islamic curriculum and trains educators worldwide. He has led seminars and courses in over 60 countries cities across Asia, Europe, North Africa, Africa, and South America. He also serves as editor-in-chief of Spiritual Quest, a biannual journal of ethics and spirituality. With more than 25 years of active participation in Muslim-Christian dialogue, Dr. Shomali has appeared on interfaith panels in over 30 countries. His authored works include Ethical Relativism, Self-Knowledge, Shia Islam, Origins, Faith and Practice, Unity of God, and Unity in God. He has supervised key textbooks and co-edited volumes in Catholic Shia and Protestant Shia dialogue. Welcome to you, Dr. Shomali.
Thank you very much. Thank you. In the name of God, the compassionate, grateful to God for giving me this blessing to share with you this platform and also to be with our dear viewers online. I thank organizers for taking this initiative to plan such a relevant topic for discussion. Since our time is very short, I would like to share with you what can be more like an outline for further, work and research. I have been talking about peace in Islam in different ways and different, places. A very good experience was when, with my dear Mennonite friend, Professor Harry Hubner, we had a course in Canadian Summer School for Peace on peace resources in Islam and Christianity. Also, inside the community, I had a series of lectures, 10 lectures in the months of Ramadan on inner and outer peace. So peace is very important topic for us, and I think whatever we do, we cannot do justice. But tonight I want to share what can be an outline for another work on peace that hopefully in future I hope I can, complete. As we heard from our dear friend Dr. Lando, in Islam and also in Judaism, peace is one of the names of God. God is described as As-Salam. Also, peace is the quality of heaven. Heaven is Darus Salam, the abode of peace. And in the whole year, the most sacred night, which is the night of measure or might, Laylatul Qadr, is described as Salamun hiya hatta matla al-fajr, the night which is peace. And this shows that how important it is to be achieving peace and offering peace. In every scenario, the Quran tells us about salutations or greetings of peace in this world, after death, before the day of judgment, in the time of entering heaven, inside heaven, greetings of peace are offered. But what is maybe more than anything else interesting for me and, triggering my, curiosity is the verse which says that those who follow the Quran, God will show them the ways of peace. يهدي به الله من اتبع رضوانه سبل السلام. This verse, I think, is very exceptional because it says that the whole idea of following the Quran is to learn subul salam, ways of peace. So the Quran teaches us how to achieve peace inside, how to achieve peace in family, in neighborhood, in the community, and in the larger society. So every understanding of the Quran which would not put peace as the main aim of the Quran is not doing justice, let alone if that understanding is actually presenting the Quran as a book of war. Whether Muslims or non-Muslims, if they make such a mistake, is a terrible mistake. The Quran is the book of peace and offers the ways of peace. In every scenario of life, in every corner of life, if we follow the Quran, we should gain peace and tranquility. So, what are the main roots of peace? How we can build peace, which is the theme of tonight. I think truth, justice, and dignity. These three concepts which are fundamentally important in Islamic theology. And we can talk about them, for many, many sessions. And I actually have had the blessing of giving lectures on all of them intensively. Truth is very important. We cannot be committed to the truth and then allow ourselves to disregard the rights of others, to want to invade or misappropriate. Then justice, which is very closely connected to the truth. With justice, we can have enduring peace. Maybe with injustice, if you have power, you can silence people, you can, silence your enemies or the people that you are oppressing and have some peace. But peace without justice either is not achieved or it will not last too long. Peace should be established on truth, on justice, and dignity. If you want to have tranquility and inner peace, you should have a great sense of honor for yourself and for others. And if you want to establish peace outside, also you should act as a dignified person who honors others. This is a very important theme in Islam, and especially in the teachings of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, the issue of honor and dignity, which is something that you cannot understand many things in the history without considering this. Unfortunately, many times in politics, this is not a factor, dignity and honor. But this is another pillar of the peace. So truth, justice, and dignity are main pillars of peace. And in order to make sure that we would be acting with full observation of this, Islamic ethics or Quranic ethics and spirituality get involved by asking us to be first sincere. Don't do anything for your selfish interests, for your egoistic interests, even if it's religious ego or sectarian ego. Anything should be purely for the sake of God, which means for the sake of truth, for the sake of beauty, for the sake of love. To be humble, not to be arrogant, and not to be wishing other people be your slaves or be under your control, and to be content with what you have been given. Many people in the world, they have been given enough by God to enjoy, but they always look to expand. They always look to add to their own territory. So, with encouraging people to be sincere, to be humble, to be truthful, to be content, the whole system of ethics and spirituality come to serve the pillars of peace. Many people may say, okay, we want to observe truth, we want to observe justice, we want to observe dignity, but without a spirituality, ethical life, your own selfish interest clouds your mind and clouds your decision. And then Islam says we should aim at something higher. If we just aim at establishing peace, it's not enough. We should aim at something higher. Therefore, the Quran says, "Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan." Justice is very important, and in all circumstances, we should observe justice. But don't be satisfied with justice. Don't be satisfied with peace as lack of war, and lack of tension or conflict. Aim at ihsan. We should have a situation in which we look for opportunities to show kindness to each other, even with the people with whom we fundamentally disagree. The Quran says, "La yanhakumullahu an alladhina lam yuqatilukum fid din wa lam yukhrijukum min diyarikum an tabarruhum wa tuqsitu ilayhim." Even with people who are pagans, who disagree with you about faith, and not only disagree, maybe they even make mockery of your faith, but as long as they have not been killing you and have not been sending you to exile, no problem, you can be very kind to them. And in all circumstances, of course, justice has to be observed even with enemies, as the Quran says, "La yajrimannakum shana'anu qawman ala alla ta'dilu." So kindness and love in the form of rahmah come to help us aim at something higher than just having peaceful relation. We should establish our relations with others, whether in the community, in the society, other countries, other nations, other religions, other denominations, based on kindness and love, after making sure that we have already established peace based on truth and justice and dignity.
Thank you so much.
Just one minute.
Please. Please.
And how we can also make sure that human relations are built on mutual understanding. This is another aspect that the Quran talks about it, and I don't have time. How we should avoid misunderstanding and ignorance by listening, by talking, by arguing with wisdom. Indeed, when it comes to the people of the book, the Quran says you must argue with them بالتي هي أحسن. لا تجادلوا أهل الكتاب إلا بالتي أحسن. Them in the most beautiful way. If we learn to listen and talk with kindness and argue in the most beautiful way, then we will also make sure that we are both on the same page. And then within those theological and spiritual and ethical parameters, I think we can have peace in every aspect of our life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shamali. My heart is full of peace.
Very good.
This is a wonderful discussion, and we're a little short on time. But what I suggest is we take maybe we've got about 15 more minutes, 20 perhaps. We take a few minutes for discussion among the panelists, and we'll try to do that with brevity, and then we'll turn our questions over to our precious audience. So does anyone among the panelists have anything that you burning something? Of course, we could talk for a very long time, and that's the difficulty. But does anyone want to pose a question to another that we can do in a relatively short amount of time? Okay, well then I'm going to take it that what we want to do is turn the discussion over to our audience, our participants, and that is going to be moderated by Dr. Randall Paul. There you go.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Good.
Yes.
I first have to say what a delight it has been to listen to these presentations. I unfortunately have had a very spotty internet connection. So if I go off, it is not because I have been offended, but because of technological difficulties. And I'll probably be right back, and you will continue your conversations without me, I trust. The first question that we have from the audience is regarding a historical question. The question comes from Ali Marashi, and it asks, historically, has not peace been preached by those who are in minorities in order to defend themselves against offenses from majorities? How is it that we have not developed governmental laws and strictures based on these teachings for majorities? I think the underlying question really is, historically, these religious traditions have influenced governments. Why have not these governments actually implemented these teachings on peace within the structure of politics? That's a loaded question. Go for it. All of you, please, each one of you respond from your own point of view. Did you hear the questions? Yes, go ahead, Mohammed.
Thank you. Very
Dr.
good question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. That's the reality of our life. Historically, every society is shaped by the religion, the identity, national identity or ethnical identity, usually shaped by religion. Therefore, any different religion or ideas or new religious doctrine when appeared in the society, they were not, the society or the state was not in a situation to accept that, used to suppress. This is the reality of history. In several verses of the Holy Quran, we read that they suppressed the prophets and declared, if you don't abandon your belief, you will be faced by two punishments. The lesser punishment was to send them to exile, to expel them from the country, from the society. the greater punishment was to be executed. This is the reality of our life, which has been recorded in the history and also confirmed by in the Quran in several verses. In one surah we have Surah Al-Buruj in the Holy Quran, which indicates the suppression and the execution of the Christian community who lived in Yemen, in the south of Arabia, by the Jewish government, and also which consequently expanded to an international war and interference by the Aksumite kingdom from Abyssinia, from Habasha or the Ethiopia today, which is also recorded in the Holy Quran. Therefore, this is the reality. For that reason, the first step to make peace, as I mentioned, was to tolerate the minorities instead of putting them or sending them to exile, or expelling them from the territory or from the country, or instead of executing the minorities. The tolerance was a mechanism to accept them and tolerate them. Finally, today, we interpret tolerance as an acceptance of the other and recognizing the other as it is, and also appreciating the diversity, as I understand from the verse in Surah Al-Hujurat. This is for the future. We have to accept them. We have to appreciate the other as they are, and also in order to respect their rights. And the peace will be based on this, respecting the right of the others. As long as we don't respect the right of the others, there will not be peace. Thank you.
All right, we need responses from you others. One conversation, so please respond to what we just heard. Any one of you, please take a response.
May I say something?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I think it's not that always have been deprived of the right or peace. I think we have many good cases for minorities being given peace. And, for example, in the Muslim world, for centuries, religious minorities lived peacefully. And also vice versa. We have many countries today that Muslim minorities are living in peace with, maybe Christian majority. Yes, it has not always been the case, but we have had many good cases for centuries. For example, in Iran, for more than 1,000 years, we have peaceful, life with our, Christian brothers and sisters, and Jewish brothers and sisters, and Zoroastrians. So, but power is something that can lead very easily to blindness with respect to the rights of minorities or people who don't agree with you, unless we work really on our spirituality. This is why I said the Quranic plan for peace is partly engaging our ethical and spiritual life for the truth, even against yourselves. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. So I need to be that sincere, which is not easy, and this is why it's a lifelong challenge to work on our sincerity, so that if something is against me or my group or my friends, but it is true and just, I accept. And therefore, I think we need to introduce a spirituality to politics. We need to benefit from religious spirituality in politics. Left only for politics, free from God, free from charity, humility, contentment, then it can become very dangerous. Then not only minority, even majority may not get their rights. Sometimes even a majority of people are not given their rights. And therefore, we need a kind of politics that is inspired and also directed by love for God.
I think that is a remarkable statement that is very contested in the world today. And I love the fact that you brought it out so explicitly. So many places claim that religious truth claims are at the contested truth claims are at the basis for political difficulty. Roger Williams, a famous character in American religious history, was a Protestant who said famously, "Truth and peace are cousins who do not meet very often, except in the presence of their other cousin, patience." I'd like you to respond to a question from the audience, which is, it seems that the common good itself, or ethical truth itself, are contested issues all over the world. It says there is consensus among people about many things, but the common good is not so common. How would you discuss this problem of contested ethics, contested good, contested truth, contested religious claims? How can they be taken seriously and still have peace? And by the way, any one of you, go, Lucinda, go for it.
I am a great fan of an admonition from Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury of some years ago, who often stressed the importance of improving the quality of our disagreements. And so it is not so much that we must come to consensus, but that we learn to disagree well, that we learn to compare appropriately, that we in the process create what he would refer to as virtuous circles rather than vicious circles and so it's a complicated process, but that, I believe, is the goal, to improve the quality of our disagreements.
Help us a little bit more with that complicated process. Could you, what would you suggest that process entail?
Many things, and I won't go into a huge list today, but I would just point out one thing that I do think helps is to learn to differentiate between formal and functional comparisons, to be careful about what we compare to what, and to consider that there might be another way to look at the two things that we're bringing to the table. Another is related to that is to, I think I may have just lost my train of thought. Let me try to pull that back. that in the comparing that we compare best practice to best practice, that we again that we are willing to be equitable in the way we look at each other, compare best to best instead of our best behavior or our best practice to our to the other communities worst. You know, so that again, parity and generosity and being willing to improve the quality of our disagreement if we cannot come to consensus.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a comment?
Randall?
Dr. Landau, please. Yes,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah, thank you. I want to reinforce Dr. Shumali's conviction that we need spiritual remedies for our social and political pathologies, which are rampant and very contagious. And in terms of a discourse that promotes peace, it can, and especially when people are arguing disagreeably rather than agreeing to disagree agreeably, one of the simplest practices is, instead of saying yes, but, which already inclines the other person to get into a defensive posture, simply to say yes and. That's a simple practice, but not enough people do it. And that relates to what I was saying about truth as dialectical and dialogical rather than dogmatic. If you think that your point of view has a monopoly on the truth, then you got to work on your ego. That's epistemological arrogance, which we cannot afford, especially as people of faith, because God surpasses in wisdom and knowledge anything we can claim.
Would someone else like to join in? Mohammed, you have a comment you'd like to make?
Yes. I actually wanted to say something that Dr. Lando also mentioned, that wisdom is very important. And if we don't have wisdom, then we may take differences as good reasons to boycott each other or, God forbid, to fight each other. But it's with wisdom, which involves, among many things, how to evaluate our differences. Because for some people who lack wisdom, as soon as they see one difference, two differences, they say we don't agree. We don't have anything in common. Sometimes people, for example, even you see couples have been married, for tens of years. Then after 2-3 differences, they say we have nothing in common. We cannot live together. But wisdom tells us how to evaluate everything on its own, and don't let one thing or two things preoccupy all your mind and heart. Many times wars and conflicts happen despite massive commonalities. At least the minimum, which by itself is great, at least we are sharing humanity. How can we find any difference bigger than our shared humanity? If we really have wisdom, I don't think we would never reach a point that we say our differences are greater than our commonalities. And we would never find among the means for dealing with our differences war as a productive means. So, wisdom in evaluating our differences, wisdom in choosing the best methods for dealing with our differences. And this certainly means that religious people can contribute a lot if they are sincere, if they are really humble, if they are listening to God. They can contribute a lot to building peace in the world.
Amen.
Amen. Let me, there is a very interesting question here that really pushes the argument that you just made. What if someone had a disease that would destroy humanity? Would it be wise to invite that person to come into association? There's an idea there, apparently, of contamination of religious untruth, contaminating humanity. I think the subtle question here is, are there negative beliefs or untruths that are so dangerous that we ought to not allow that conversation at all, that we ought to violently even keep it from happening because it could either contaminate the soul or the society? What are the limits, if you will, to this discussion we're having now on dialectical openness to the other?
May I say something?
Please.
There can be, of course, exceptions, but I think the general rule is that we should be happy to get into meaningful dialogue with everyone. Exceptions can be there, but the general rule is to be happy for dialogue with everyone, even with the people that not only we disagree with them, but they have very bad record of injustice, of oppression. A very important case in the Quran is Moses and Pharaoh. God says to Moses, go and speak to Pharaoh. One of the very first things that God asked from Moses was that he should go and talk to Pharaoh. In our hadith, we find that the reason is because if he was waiting for Pharaoh, Pharaoh would never, come and talk to Moses. He's so proud of himself and arrogant. But God asked his chosen servant, his prophet and messenger, to meet Pharaoh, to go to Pharaoh's place, not even to an equal place, and speak to him, but with a soft word and language. قُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. Maybe, God says, maybe his heart becomes soft. Of course, God knew that Pharaoh is not going to change. God knows the history and future the same way. But he says to Moses, and then through this, that never dismiss this chance. Never say, this person is so corrupt that he's not going to, listen. It's not going to change. لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ يَخْشَى. Maybe he remembers. Maybe he goes back to his conscience. So, I think there can be exceptions. I'm not saying 100% is the same, but the general rule is we should be ready for very, very difficult conversations, even with the people who have criminal record like Pharaoh. People who claim to be God. Pharaoh used to claim that he is God. But we should be ready to get into dialogue and conversation with them. And of course, there are lots of other things to observe, but this idea that I only talk to some people and not other people, I talk to the people that I agree with them and share with them, I don't talk to the people that I disagree. This idea is not, I think, very wise.
I think this goes very well with Dr. Shamali's ending statement of having beautiful arguments, right? The most difficult are the most beautiful in that sense. I remember, if I can insert one very quick note, I'd had a conversation with Dr. Al-Hittar in Yemen many years ago on this question, and he answered the question, look, if God can have a conversation with Iblis, with the devil, I can talk with someone who disagrees with me in a dangerous way here. So I think that in the spirit of what you just said, we certainly learn that from the Quranic scriptures. Do we have a Christian or Jewish response to that one?
Yeah,
Or do we want to move on?
I
Go
would,
ahead.
yeah, I was very appreciative of the bringing up of the notion of ihsan, the doing of the beautiful, Ash-Shazali wished for his followers that they might dwell among people who do the beautiful, ihsan. And there is a parallel concept in Christianity, tokalon, the beautiful, the good. We hope to have those that we care about dwell among the people who do the beautiful, but that's not going to happen if we don't help to create that environment ourselves. And so it invites the possibility of really exploring deep differences, and that's the challenge that keeps me going. And I look forward to more conversations like this one, and in each case, there's so much to learn.
Thank you. Dr. Landau, one comment here regarding your remarks. The question is, Dr. Landau is emphasizing forgiveness almost as much as Christians do. This is a very enlightening presentation. How does the Jewish faith deal with the idea of loving the enemy and yet obtaining justice?
Well, I'm conscious of the time, so I don't think I can do justice to this question since we're already over the 90 minutes. I think Rabbi Sachs in his chapter on forgiveness emphasizes that it is not simply a Christian, quote unquote, Christian virtue, that people of different faiths, including Jews, also hold up forgiveness as a challenging but necessary element in healing grievances before they become they lead to estrangement and even hostility. Okay, first of all, I consider Jesus of Nazareth as one of my rabbinic teachers. So when he preached, taught the love of enemies, I'll say he was speaking out of rabbinic wisdom. But it's clear that normative Judaism, who sadly didn't accept him as a Jewish prophet or teacher, for the most part, emphasized justice over forgiveness. And I think justice is absolutely necessary, inclusive justice to heal conflict, but it is not sufficient. That you need rahma, mercy, compassion, in order to really move from, let's say, hudna or sulha, just a cessation of fighting, to musalaha, real reconciliation of hearts. And that requires emulating the divine nature of Al-Ghafur, one of the Asma al-Husna, the 99 beautiful names of the divine Allah, the all-forgiving. That's implanted in us, but our own egos and resentments get in the way. So we have to work on ourselves. World peace begins with each and every one of us.
Well, thank you so much. I think this could go on for another 2 hours. I feel the only person I might have slighted in this is Dr. Shamali. You didn't participate a lot in this conversation. So do you have a final statement you would like to make?
Mean?
Let's see,
Me? Somali or
Dr. Whoops. Please help me. My screen is down. I don't have the participant up. Dr. Mosafari.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just I want to add one sentence concerning the truth claim. As long as each community and each religion and every ideology claiming the truth, we have to tolerate. We have to recognize the rights of the other and appreciate the differences. But there are some ideologies that we have to limit this general rule, the intolerant ideologies, like colonial ideologies, like fascism, like Nazism. These are the ideologies that cannot be tolerated. And in the 1981 United Nations Declaration on the Elimination of all forms of religious intolerance indicated clearly that this kind of ideologies cannot be tolerated. Therefore, there is a limitation on toleration as well. But as long as the religious beliefs which are tolerant toward others, they have to be tolerated, and the differences should be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Thank you so much for this conversation, all of you. I now return the gavel to, I guess, Doug to. Doug, are you there?
You're muted, Doug.
Sorry. This has been an amazing conversation. It is an example of what we hope this world will be. And to think that we are able to do this at this time and this moment in history is truly amazing. So I especially wanted to thank everybody who participated, the Tulu International Institute, the University of Tehran in Qom, the McDonald Center at Hartford International University, Dr. Mozafari, Dr. Mosier, Dr. Landau, Dr. Shamali, and Dr. Hetzel for moderation, and Randall Paul for helping us with the questions. Those of you who are expecting credit for your courses, for participating in this, please write to this email address. This webinar will be posted on the Luke 10 website, luke10.faith, in about a day. It will also be posted on our YouTube channel. Thanks again for everyone who participated. May you go in peace.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Shalom. Ma salame.
Thank you for a wonderful discussion and a very hopeful one in a time when we need hope.
Yes, I think we could all have a great time together. More than 90 minutes, that's for sure. I love you all. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.